Is the MLS going to be obsolete? All these companies starting to do these private listings. What is going to be shown on the MLS? What roles do they play? Which has the best dollar per square foot? Or that has a swimming pool or is close to a park? Google's pretty fascinating because Google is a huge, huge company with market share unbelievable. They dwarf the size of Zillow as far as market value. We're talking about a huge disruptor. When we go back 20 years ago, the internet, when it first started, was a disruptor, and maybe you never get out of AI. Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. And for this show, we're going to be talking about the portal wars. Let the games begin. Well, this has really been on my mind for quite some time. And there's several parts to it. One, the private listings / pocket listings. Also, we have lawsuits with Zillow. We also have the MLS. What impact is the MLS going to have moving forward? And these new competitions for the portals, whether it be the Kelley Blue Book or Google jumping into the game. And then, of course, AI. Is that going to be the biggest disruptor of them all? So let's jump into first the private listings or pocket listings. Well, number one, there's always been pocket listings or private listings, okay? But it looked like Compass has now taken it to a new level. So I can sort of see both sides of the story, because you have on one side, Compass is saying, don't tell me how to sell properties. And then on the other side, you have Zillow saying, hey, the more people, the more eyeballs that see homes, the better is for the overall real estate market. And I see both sides of that point. One, I have Compass, once again, hey, these are my listings, don't tell me how to sell homes. And then I can see where Zillow can turn around and say, hey, that may not be in the best interest for all. But the difference here is Zillow can have their stance, and they can turn around and say, hey, don't tell us how to operate our business. If you turn around and you do these private listings, we're not going to show those listings on our site if they don't sell. So, hey, Zillow can say, this is my site. I don't have to show everything, or I don't have to show things that I don't want on my site. Completely understandable, and understand their side and their viewpoint, and I can also see Compass side. But then it gets a little bit hypocritical, because now Zillow, I guess, to counteract Compass, they turn around and now they're doing their private listings or their previews, their showcase of properties. And there's incentives to turn around and say, hey, if you do, hey, coming soon to our site, we'll give a little bit better viewage, like the rotation of how they're going to come. And if something sells while it comes, on that preview or coming soon part of things, you can get, as the listing agent, some commission over and above when it comes to that. So it's super interesting, where they come here. On one side they say, hey, we need to show everything, but now they turn around and they make relationships with all different companies to do their previews or coming soon listings while bad-mouthing Compass. So fascinating, when it comes to that. Now, you're thinking about buying, refinancing, or investing in real estate? I've been a loan officer for 30 years, helping my clients find the right loan for the right property. I keep it simple and honest. If you want real numbers and guidance you can trust, give me a call. Now let's get back to the show. Mean for the MLS. Is the MLS going to be obsolete? If you have everybody, all these companies starting to do these private listings, what is going to be shown on the MLS, the multiple listing, service? So that's going to be, kind of fascinating as well. What roles do they play? Right now, in the Chicago area, MRED, which is a multiple listing service, MLS, in that area, they're turning around and they're battling it out in court with Zillow because they had, for the past, I guess, almost 10 years, a private listing through their MLS. And there's reasons why you may want to have private listings. Heck, they're in the Chicago area. It could be that somebody is renovating a home, want to let everybody know, hey, this is coming soon. It's just not ready yet, so they don't want to hit the days on the market. Understandable. Or let's say somebody has a job and they're moving in September, but they don't want to miss the spring market, so they put it there, and then perhaps on that private market site through the MLS, somebody may turn around and say, you know what, that September is perfect timing, and they can make an arrangement, when it comes to that. So MRED is saying, hey, Zillow, you're not showing all properties, because any properties that are on this site, which they would consider like a pocket listing, and it's not syndicated right away to the Zillow site, they're saying, hey, if it doesn't sell, we're not going to put it on Zillow. So it's been around for years, and now it just looks like, it's coming to a head when it comes to that. And, Zillow is turning around. You can't have it both ways. You have your private listings, you have your, coming soons, but then you have an MLS, doing the same thing. And now the MLS said, you know what, we're not going to syndicate to you. And there was a really big issue with that, where a ton of properties no longer appeared on Zillow because they weren't automatically syndicating to Zillow. And they went to court in an injunction, and that's, what they're battling out. So that's super fascinating, what's going on as far as that's concerned. Also, you have new parties entering into the portals, okay? You have Kelley Blue Book entering. Now, Kelley Blue Book is known for cars and has a good reputation. So, hey, first thing I'm going to do is, if I think about selling a car or buying a car, I'll go to Kelley Blue Book and say, hey, what is this property worth? Or, car worth, right? Well, now they're jumping into the game where they're hooking up with appraisers. So exactly how they're going to appraise, these homes to give a semi-accurate, or maybe not accurate at all, estimate of the home. Just like Zillow. Zillow made their way when they came in with the Zestimate and really made their site popular. So you're able to go on their site and see, what the property is worth. Ballpark. We knew the Zestimate sometimes was accurate, sometimes not even close. Well, Kelley Blue Book, what are they going to do? How accurate they're going to be? And then they're going to connect you to agents and all that too there. So now we have another party entering. Are they going to be successful? Are they not? Who knows? But it's just more competition out there. And then, of course, Google. Google jumped in the game. Google's pretty fascinating because Google is a huge, huge company with, market share unbelievable. So, and they dwarf the size of Zillow as far as market value. So Google is joining in with, House Canary, and they have a portal, a part where when you go in there doing a search, you can search right there in Google. So think about it. Prior, people, if they were going to do a house search, they would turn around and type in a property address, or they would type in a zip code, show me properties, and what would show up? What would show up would be Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and it would take you to their sites so you could see these properties. Well, now, with Google being involved, wouldn't Google just send them to their site? So what impact is Google going to have in these portal games? Super, super interesting when it comes to that. But ultimately, AI. Is AI going to scrub all the websites, right? Scrub everything, and then in turn you stay in AI. If you're in chat, you may stay in chat, and then you will do searches a little bit different. You may turn around and go, hey, show me all the properties for sale in zip code 12345, right? Which has the best dollar per square foot, or that has a swimming pool, or is close to a park. Your searches, are going to be a little bit different, and then maybe you never get out of AI. You're layer in the AI, and what's that going to do when it comes to the MLSs, the multiple listing services? Are people now going to start utilizing those? And as things get more sophisticated and get quicker and more information goes in, that's going to be super fascinating as well. I mean, we're talking about a huge disruptor, a disruptor like the internet was, when we go back, 20 years ago when it first started. This was, all brand new. People were going crazy saying, oh my God, you can post properties. And, now we no longer have books, to look at addresses or what for sale. Now everything's online. So super fascinating, really curious how everything's going to pan out. And what things are going to look like in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm a loan officer, so I don't really, go into the MLS and do that. But it's incredibly fascinating to me, and I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it, or more people aren't, utilizing, different means, or perhaps, eventually workarounds, from the MLS. Because hey, if I don't have to pay, dues, from MLS, or pay dues for NAR, pay dues, wherever they're at, and then get this information, maybe I don't need to use those services. You tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Is these technology and these portal battles, what kind of changes do you see? Of course, in the immediate future, not too much. We are a creature of habit, so we may not have, that much change in the very beginning. But as more and more people, are using AI, or as more people go into Google and start experience that, what kind of change, what will happen when it comes to that? Well, that's my thoughts. Tell me your thoughts. Remember, this show, we talk everything real estate. Be sure to check the show out on Facebook, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. We will be airing on YouTube, The Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Hope you enjoy the show, and I'll see you next week.